episode of the In Focus series features Chris Nguyen. Chris is an Australian Muay Thai fighter out of 8 Blade Warriors and currently an active fighter on the One Championship roster. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Will, how you going?
Good, man. Let's bring it back to the early days. This moment here, classic Chris Nguyen with the Asian boy haircut, wearing the classic Chris Green 8 Blade shorts, fighting another local favourite, Timmy Z. It was a very interesting matchup for me. I think it was, even though it was on the undercard, it was a matchup between two guys who I've been following for many years, even before I started working as a photographer and also training properly, because I remember seeing you two guys in like the early 2008, 2009, fighting on the amateur scene on the ultimate shows with headgear, shin pads, fighting almost every few weeks. And after a few years, you guys slowly got up to the scene. You guys were fighting long before everyone jumped in. This was back when you had to fight with headgear and shin pads for at least 5 or 10 fights.
16-ounce gloves as well.
Yeah,
those are bad. And they're like now I think they're cloth now, aren't they?
Yeah, I think so. Well, you would know more than me.
And we just fought in like a small, tiny ring. I swear the ring was maybe half the size when we first started fighting. You know.
Yeah.
But I don't think those shorts fit me anymore either.
Let's talk about those shorts. I remember seeing you fight early on and you were wearing the same shorts every time. This was before promotions started using their own shorts, so fighters could wear whatever shorts they were. And I always found certain fighters that would wear a particular short for every fight. What's the story behind those shorts?
Boy and Dom actually gave me them. They gifted them to me to fight in. Or like most likely to fight in. But I was like, okay, and I took it on. And then I just kept wearing them, and eventually I just kept growing because I can't remember how old I was when I fought Timmy. But yeah, now definitely they don't fit me anymore.
Were they like lucky pair of shorts?
They're still in my in all my equipment, and eventually one day they'll probably get framed or something like that. Yeah, they're not going to get thrown out, that's for sure.
Yep. Talk to me about your opponent here, Timmy Z. Did you follow him much?
I didn't follow him. I knew he was on the kickboxing scene before I fought him, but I knew. At that point, Dom and Boy said that I think he was undefeated at the point when I fought him in this match.
Yeah.
And I remember being in the back room just before the walkout. Him and his trainer were doing like shadowing or pad work.
Yep.
And he went southpaw. And I remember looking at Dom. I'm like, hey, I think they're gonna fight southpaw. Dom and Boy like, nah, don't worry about it. Just stick to the game plan. And I'm like, all right, cool. So I went out and he didn't go southpaw at all in the fight, but there was a lot of pressure because, you know, like you said, he'd been fighting as long as I have.
Yep.
So when me and him went the first round, after the first couple of minutes, I was like, I started getting comfortable. And then, but he was throwing really, really quickly. And he threw, I think, a spinning heel kick, which Boy still gives me grief for to this day because he goes, you should have seen it coming. And I know why you didn't get out of the way. So, but the fight, it was definitely a lot of pressure in that fight because him being undefeated, from my knowledge. So I knew he was going to come and he was going to be aggressive, and in that kickboxing style, just come forward and be a lot of hands, a lot of kicks. But luckily for me, I think I clinched with him, and I was lucky enough to outdo him in the clinch, and that probably got me the win in the end.
Yep,
it was a good fight, definitely a good fight. Especially on power play as well. Like, I love that venue as well. But after that fight, I think we both continued on to have a pretty good fight record as well after that fight. I think we both learnt a lot after that fight about ourselves as fighters.
Awesome. How about Xavier? Being in your division, it's the 62 to 63 kilogram division.
I think I fought heavier on this fight because me and Albert had fought once before this, and we fought I think at 60 kilos, 59 to 61, somewhere on that range. I can't remember. But we already fought once before, so I don't remember this one on power play was a little bit heavier.
Yep.
But Albert, my nemesis.
My question was, at your division, you've been fighting everyone. You would have fought everyone a few times already. This was the second time with fighting Albert. What's it like fighting him the second time around? What was different? How did you feel about it?
This one, there was so much pressure on this fight because the first fight, I'd rocked him with, I think, left hook. I rocked him with a left hook, and
you both rocked each other, didn't you?
No, he rocked me. He rocked me in this fight. I rocked him in the first one.
Yeah.
So I hit him with the left hook in the first fight, first time we fought, and this is when maybe we had 2 or 3 fights each, maybe a little bit more.
Yep.
And I rocked him, and then I think I just chased him, and I just expelled everything I had, all my energy. And then by 3rd, 4th, and 5th round, I was like running out of gas. I was like, I just used too much. Just being like, just new to the sport. I was just like, too excited, too punch happy. So this one, there was a lot of pressure because I was like, all right, this is the decider, or this is like, if he wins by 2, or if we're going to draw it here. So in this fight, he came out and he was a lot stronger than I remember. Like, we'd both grown maybe 2 or 3 years since we first fought.
Yep.
So we'd grown a lot, and we both experienced a lot. I think at this point, Albert had already fought overseas in Thailand a couple of times on the Max show as well.
Yeah.
So he knocked out a few people as well, and I was following his journey as well.
Yep.
And we're talking to each other at the weigh-in, like saying, "Oh, I can't believe this is happening again!" Like, how exciting.
Yeah.
And yes, I was following his journey, and I knew he was strong. But when we went center ring and we started exchanging, I was like,
it's on.
He's a lot stronger than I remember. And he was throwing a lot of like power shots as well. And he wasn't getting tired.
Yeah.
But I remember, and me and him spoke after as well. I hit him in the body, and he goes, I felt like the body shot, and he was waiting for me to hit him in the body again so he can counter me. Yeah. But I never kind of threw it naked. I just threw a combination, and then I went to the body. But his skill improved so much in 3 years. Like, his clinching was way better than I remember. But yeah, that was a really good fight. When he rocked me in the 3rd round, I didn't even see it coming.
Yeah.
I lost my legs for a bit as well.
That's what I like about your style in particular. You have a very smart fighting IQ. You don't go too crazy. Even when you get rocked, you're still playing it very carefully. You never go for the kill right away. You're always reading your opponents and taking your time. And I suppose that helps with your fight career too and your fight longevity.
Yeah, I tried to be a little bit smarter, but boy, and that want me to be smarter as well for the longevity of my life as a fighter as well. I want to do this as long as I can.
Nice one. I've been following a lot of people for a while now, and I want to say this fight, was that one of your first knockouts?
This is my first knockout, my first and only knockout. I remember we were at the weigh-ins and we weighed up and we faced off, and you were telling us to face off, and I'm like, all right, cool. Faced off, and you kind of analyze your opponent, and you're like, okay, they're probably going to get a little bit bigger tomorrow.
Yeah.
But next day, when I went to center ring and they gave us final instructions, I was like, he's huge. He's absolutely huge. And the first round, he was throwing like leg kicks and like body kicks, and I was checking them, but it was actually hurting. Like, they actually hurt. So I went back into the corner after the first round, and Boy and Dom were like, oh, how's it feel? I'm like, he's a lot strong, and his clinch is really strong too.
Yeah.
And Boy and Dom were like, you guys stick to the game plan. And
what was the game plan for this one?
The game plan was the punches. He's like, you got to use your punches before him, because I'm pretty sure Patrick fought Albert before this fight.
Yes.
And then I think they must have, I didn't watch it myself, but Boy and Dom always do the research. So they implemented those plans during our training. And we went back to the corner, and Boy and Dom were like, you got to use your hands more, and you got to try to finish it. And I'm like, all right, cool. He goes, and Boy's like, remember the drill we did was left hook. I'm like, okay, cool. Went out and we just started exchanging, and I can't remember what happened. I started noticing he was switching to come into knee, or switching to come into counter, or open up his combination.
Yep.
And then when he switched, I kind of just went blank and just went kind of, it was just kind of reflex, and I just threw the left hook. And then when I felt him I felt his weight give way, it just went like a flash. I couldn't believe it happened. And I had to look to my trainers, and I looked to my corner, and they were like, go into the corner. That was the first time I knocked someone down. So they're like, I didn't know what to do. They're like, go corner. And then I was in the corner. I was like, stay down. I don't want to get hurt anymore. Like, because I knew that if I said to Boy and Dom that if I got to the end, it would, like after the fight, I was like, if I had got to the end of the 5 rounds, I definitely would have come out like bruised and battered a little bit, because even though that only went for 2 rounds, I was still injured after the fight. Like, Patrick can throw some heat.
You said that Dom and Boy did a lot of research on your opponent before the fights. How much of that? How much of researching do you do for your opponents, or do you leave that to your manager and your trainer?
I kind of, I just leave it all to Boy and Dom because I trust in their game plan, and every camp is a little bit different. And I think that if I watch it myself, like I do watch a little bit, but I don't really research. You know what I mean? I watch maybe their last fight, or I watch their best fight and see what their best weapons are and what I think that I can beat them with. And then I try to implement that with Boy's plan, because Boy makes out the plan and he, tells us to either, distance or clinch or, kick or like, focus on these. So I just trust in their plan, and I just try to follow their game plan as best as I can. And I try not to get in trouble by Boy.
And because you're in a pretty stacked division, I see you at shows a lot, supporting your team, supporting your friends. Obviously, when you see new up-and-coming talent, are you always on watch and thinking about who you might be facing in the future?
Oh, definitely. There's so many, like you're right, like at my division, when I first started, it was busy, but it wasn't stacked. You know what I mean? But in the last 3 years, there's been a lot more like Asian fighters coming into the scene. A lot more Vietnamese fighters coming into the scene.
Well, like back then, it was just yourself, Timmy, and
Kung Tran. And that was in the Ultimate shows as well.
Yep.
But now, you got so many good talents coming through. Stacked division. Like I'm pretty much at every show, so either supporting, my stablemates and my teammates.
Yep.
Or I'm just going just to watch, because I love just watching fights, but I'm always keeping an eye out for guys in my division, like to see what's coming up next, or who's going to be the next like prospect. And like Cahill and Van, that fight was amazing.
Amazing, man. And that was they've had like only a handful of fights. I would say like 5 to 10 fights, and then they were fighting at that caliber too.
The technique on Van was amazing. His left kick was like so crisp, and Van, Cahill's heart is unbelievable. Like you can't teach that.
Nah.
That's probably because, and he's been in the military too, because I talked to him after shows. I talked to him after hardcore.
Yep.
And I'm like, man, you're so tough.
He's got heart.
But you know what? Honestly, like as what cliche as it may sound, it's exactly how you learn. Because I think in my whole career as a fighter, I don't think I wasn't even allowed, but I don't think I've ever had an easy fight. Every fight has been hard in some way, even the ones I win. But yeah, that's exactly how they learn, and that's why there's such amazing fighters now. Who else is an up and comer? I
was speaking to another promoter too on the podcast, and we were talking about the type of fighters you have on Muay Thai shows. You don't really pick and choose your fights. It's not too much about your record, about your wins. It's more about who you fought on your record than your win-loss ratio. Obviously, you want to win, but it's about who you fought and who you didn't turn down.
Oh, 100%.
Because people know.
Oh yeah, of course. Because especially anyone in the scene, they know who the good technicians are and who the good fighters are. Like I can literally sit down and through all my losses, I can say what I've taken away from that fight.
Yep.
I mean, like, and it kind of it sparks that little bit of a fire under you to kind of work harder. Because after my first loss, I just worked hard. I just worked so hard, much harder to try to get that win. And I was not allowed to win I was unable to win for like 3 or 4 fights. And
I remember that period.
Oh man, that's so bad.
It's all experience though, hey?
Oh.
I think, was this your most recent fight?
Yeah, just before one. This is my last appearance on Rebellion.
What's it like fighting a fighter like Albert, someone who is hard to prepare for, someone who's unorthodox?
Albert had fantastic timing. He knew where to strike, and his movement was so fluid that he looked comfortable. So I couldn't, like a lot of the fighters I fight against, I can eventually read, maybe first round, second round. But Albert, he moved in a way that it was unpredictable for me. But we had a game plan to beat Albert, and I didn't follow it. And boy, did I cop it from my trainers afterwards for not following that game plan. And if you watch the fight, you can actually see I implement that game plan in maybe round 2,
Yep.
and then I completely abandoned it after.
What was the game plan?
It was clinching, baby.
We heard that from the commentators too.
Yeah. I still copy from boy to this day. Like, there's no. It hurts a lot more when your trainer goes, "You should have listened. You could have won, and you didn't win because wasn't because they're better than you. It's because you didn't follow the game plan. We prepared for 7 weeks, 6-7 weeks, and you're only supposed to fight for what 15 minutes, and in those 15 minutes you couldn't focus and follow your game plan for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And you disappoint yourself more than anything. So Albert, yeah, he's going to go far, especially now since he's been signed to 1.
Well, that's great, man. You both have been signed to 1. So, and then actually a lot of the people you fought in your division have also been on 1 too, like Josh Tunnell.
Yeah.
Like I said, man, it's a very stacked
Josh Tunner's going to do some great things. I think Albert's going to do some really amazing things too, especially in his division. I think his division's quite stacked as well.
Yep.
But I think, funnily enough, Josh Tunner, Albert and I were supposed to fight on that show, on the same show.
Yeah, I remember you saying that to me.
Oh, we're all talking to each other. We were all so psyched to go and experience this stuff together. But unfortunately, it didn't happen. So hopefully it happens in the future. Can't wait.
Can't wait, man. I think it was one of the first times you stepped up the notch to fight an international opponent like Jordan Co. What was it like leading up to this fight?
Jordan's a special kind of fighter. Like, I've never fought anyone like him. Like, he had that flair, and I still believe that if he was still with us to this day, that he'd be amazing. He'd still be amazing, and he'd be just good, just great. Like, he, I don't even know what to say, because every time I fight, when I heard about his passing, part of me was just like, I don't want to, like, that mortality kind of sinks into you.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, do I want to do this anymore?
I think it hit home to a lot of people too, especially the Muay Thai community in Australia, because that's when, during that period, we got to know him as a fighter, and then it just happened so sudden.
Yeah, he was such a charismatic guy as well. Like, I spoke to him after the fight. I went to Thailand to train that year, and we met up,
sweet,
out for a little bit. So me and him were forming a really good friendship. And I remember after the fight, he was like, "You and Josh Schneider would be a good fight." He goes, we just got to work on your clinching a little bit. And I was like, yeah, okay. Like, okay. I knew that because in the fight, he was just sweeping the floor with me. Yeah. And I was like, it was just so easy for him. And he came out, from the walkout to the end of the fight, he was just a gentleman. He's just a top-notch guy as well. And not only that, he was just a fantastic fighter. And if he was still with us today, I think he'd be amazing on 1. Like, that kind of flair is what, like, he embodies.
You don't see it every day, man. Every now and then you see a special fighter coming through like him, like he was, and man, you rewatch those kind of moments just to get inspired from the sport. Yeah,
I miss him. I think about him every time I fight, and especially when I was at Rebellion and walking out, and you have that post on the wall and showing beautiful Muay Thai. I was just like, and that is where I draw strength from as well, because I know he'd still be doing it if he was still with us as well.
Yep.
And every now and again, like, it's still posted on my page, the video that Tom did, and it still gives me goosebumps and chills every time I watch it.
Going to this fight, I believe you were awarded the Jordan Co Award, and to me, this was probably one of the fight that you showed the most heart. You were having a back and forth fight with Q, and you guys were just throwing Hellbows from first round to the last round. What was this part of the game plan, or were you just on autopilot?
That was not, to get cut was not part of the game plan at all. Like, I came back into the corner after the first round, and the game plan for this fight was pressure, pace, boy wanted me to increase the tempo and make him work, and not to give him any room to breathe. So after the first round, which was my downfall, I let him get comfortable too quickly. And I came back after the first round, and the second round even, I think, and boy was like, "Hey, you're losing now." Because you gotta work. He goes, you gotta win the next 3 rounds to win this fight, or to even be in the scorecards. So at the start of the 3rd round, he goes, you gotta go out and you gotta not give him any space, no room. And I'm like, okay. So I went out and we just for the whole 3 minutes, 2.5 minutes, me and him were just trading punch for punch, elbow for elbow, kick for kick. And then I cut him with an elbow first. I plugged his eye. And I was like, and that's like, at that point, I'm like, I can win.
Yeah.
And then after that, it was just like a little bit more of a controlled aggression.
Yeah.
So, but I could still see his shots coming. I can still return. And then I made the mistake of throwing an upwards elbow, but at the wrong time.
Yep.
And I left myself wide open. Instead of stepping in, I stepped out, which gave him the room to launch that slicing elbow that cut me in half. And
was that the one here?
That's the one right here. Yeah, that's the one. That's the one. And after that, I felt like that, like a thump, like someone just hit me with a hammer. I'm like, what was that? And within half a second, I just felt this warm streak down my face. I'm like, I'm cut.
Yeah, yeah.
And I went back to the corner, and I can hear Boyd looking. I can see Boyd's reaction when he looks at my face. He's like, and he's swearing. He's like, "Oh my god!" He couldn't believe it. I'm pretty sure you can even hear it in the video footage as well. That Rebellion
watch that again.
YouTube.
Yeah.
He's like, he just starts swearing, and they couldn't stop the bleeding for too long. And I remember the doctor coming to look at the cut, and he's just like, "Look, it's okay. It's just gonna go on the side or inside your nose." He goes, "It won't go into your eye." He goes, "You want to fight?" I'm like, "Yeah, I want to fight." And then I went out, and within 30 seconds, that thing was open again.
Yeah.
I think there was a bit. I locked him, and then you just see the blood just squirt out. I'm like, it was such a good fight, though. Like, even though I lost, I was happy with my performance because I tested my heart a little bit.
Oh, definitely. And even with those scars, you still ended up winning the Australian award for the most sexiest fighter.
Oh, that's 2 years later, though. It was still 3 years later. That's a cut.
It healed up pretty quickly. This was backstage at one of your first fights where you got cut. What's it like for you being backstage, being stitched up by our favourite Dr. Chris Barnes?
Dr. Chris, he does such a good job like with stitches. Like, you can really barely see any of the cuts now.
Yeah.
Only when at specific times you can see my cuts. But he does a fantastic job. Like, props to Chris. Like, he's one of the greatest fight doctors I've ever met. But yeah, being backstage, I'm absolutely terrified of needles. Absolutely terrified. So I think this was at
Prestige.
Prestige, that's the one. Yes, it was at Prestige, and I was fighting Jamie Young. And I think he cut me in the 4th. So,
and that was your first 5-by-3-minute round fight too, wasn't it?
I think it was, actually. Yeah, it was. Good memory, Bill.
I know this stuff, man.
So yeah, being the backstage when I got cut, like, this was probably my first big cut on my eye line.
Yep.
So I was quite scared. I was like, "Hey doc, is it gonna hurt?" He goes, "No, it will be okay. It'll sting a little bit." I was like, you know what? Instead of being scared about it, I'm just gonna take out my phone and record and see what this is all about. And I took it out. I'm like, it wasn't bad. Like,
backstage, everyone's very calm. Everyone's just having a laugh at each other when you get cut.
Yeah, and like, especially after the fight as well, Jamie's like sitting there laughing. He's like, "Can I take a photo?" And you know, me and him just all laughs after, because we're mates now, and I still chat to him every now and again and see how he is.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, being backstage before, you can just smell the adrenaline, you can smell the nerves in the back room. And then after, especially after like a good fight, and you see like, the brotherhood and the friendships that are formed afterwards. And like, I still talk to a lot of the guys I fought in the past, and some of these guys are like my real good friends. Like Josh, he's like a great guy as well. He's to talk to.
Yeah.
And he's always like there to give you advice if you need.
That's awesome.
But yeah, no, being in the back room, it's a special place to be.
And not many fans can actually see what's it like backstage. That's why, I'm lucky to get the opportunity to come backstage and hang out and showcase what's it like back here too. What you do really amazingly is when you capture like that solitude of a fighter just before he walks out of the ring. Like when all the not the showboating, but like when all the the cameras are no longer going. It's not like, you have the weigh-ins, because at the weigh-ins you're like kind of, I just want to eat, I just want to refuel, I just want to rest. Yeah. Like, I'm just going for like a month and a half camp,
I just want to rest and eat what I want.
Yep.
But when you're in the backstage and you're about to walk out, that's when everything else fades away.
It's that calm before the storm.
And it's exactly, and you're like, it's no longer about my trainers. It's no longer about who's here to support me. It's about the guy that's going to be in front of me in the next 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And for you, you capture that moment. Like there's a photo of Som, there's a photo of Alex, there's a photo of Quan, just sitting in the back room on the chairs, and they're not even looking at the camera. They're not even looking at boy. They're just sitting there and they're thinking. And like
that just comes to the trust as well, because you guys know me. You guys know I'm not there to mess around. I'm there to accurately document the sport, and I know my moments. I know when I can come and when I can't come. So I just get my thing done and I'm out. I'm not there lingering for too long. I'm not talking to. I talk to you guys, but I know when to give you a moment.
Yeah, and like you being a martial artist and you fought in the past as well, so you know all these things, and that's like the gift that you have, because without it, you wouldn't be able to do this.
Definitely,
you'd just be taking like 100 snaps in a second. You'd be like, at the end of the night. How many photos do you take in one night at Rebellion?
Rebellion's a crazy one. You know, let's say 10 fights, and most of them being 5-round by 3-minute rounds. You're looking at about 5,000 to 6,000 photos at least. But then you've got to curate all of that and narrow it down to a few hundred to upload, and then narrow that down for a few to post up on social. So,
and do you edit every single photo that you post up as well? Not every single one, but do you edit it?
Yeah, I can't let anything slide that isn't really approved by me. I've got to make sure it looks good. There's a even amount of photos of both fighters. I don't want to be biased. I want to make sure I'm accurately depicting the sport.
You've had some really bad ones of me. I purposely don't look at them anymore. Like when I go to save it, I'm like, I don't want that one ever coming up again.
I'm going to tag you in all of them, mate.
No, you're not. I'm going to untag every single one. I'm going to even report. I might even report it or something. Can you close my eyes?
No, you can have a look.
I feel like I knew this photo was coming for some reason.
How? This was the fight between your teammate Quan Trin against Leo Nguyen from the pit. And somehow I was looking at the blue corner and I saw you in the corner of the other team.
Look, honestly, like? I wasn't there to cause trouble or like, be in the corner to kind of communicate with my team or anything like that. That seat was actually one of the sponsors' chairs.
Yep.
And because I think you can only have a max people in the red corner.
Yep.
He was like, just go sit on my seat. And I was there before that fight as well. It was like, just go watch fights. But I was like, I can't be in the corner. So he was like, just go sit in my seat. I was like, nah, I don't want to. And he's like, nah, just go, guys. You're not going to get a good view of the fights. And I want to be close to my teammates. I want to like support them. Even if I'm not saying anything, if they see my face, same thing as if I see one of my teammates' face in the crowd, it's that support.
Yeah. So
I was sitting there. I didn't communicate with my trainers or anything like that. I was just there to support my mate.
What's it like hearing advice being thrown against your teammate?
No, it's part of the game. Really, it's like it's interesting to see another trainer's perspective. Like I know my trainer, and like I've known Boy for long half my life. I've known Boy, so I know how Boy communicates and what he wants. So it's very interesting to see what another trainer's game plan is.
Yep.
So it's like, it's good as well because it gives me a perspective of how to break down a game plan or how to break down a fighter as well. And when I watched that fight, I wasn't kind of thinking what they should do. I was just watching the fight and being in the moment and just really enjoying the fight. But no, it's good to see Blair give instructions and a lot of it made sense from what I could hear. I didn't hear everything, but a lot of it made sense.
Nice one. This time, I believe it was your first time being the main event of a promotion against Indigo Boyd. And by this stage, your teammates Alexi and Quan have already fought against Indigo. What was that like during fight camp, knowing you'll be fighting someone who, your stablemates have fought and won against?
It was good. It was a confidence booster because, you're having someone that kind of can formulate your game plan with you, and they're also your training partners. So you have that confidence as well because because they're all throwing stuff that he threw at them, like, a lot of spinning elbows, a lot of spinning back fists,
Screamers.
a lot of hands, a lot of screamers. Correct. we I think the boys went to see Indigo on his podcast and actually brought it up with him as well.
Yeah.
And they didn't realize that we knew because
everyone knows by now.
Yeah. So when they screamer, so we knew, and I heard it in the middle of the fight. So I was like, I know what he's doing, so I stepped back. But it was, like I said, it was a big confidence booster because having teammates that had already fought him. I think Nguyen had fought him twice as well.
Yes.
But it was also a lot of pressure because I didn't want to fail and I didn't want to lose and be that fighter in the stable that had lost out of the three.
Going back
so
to
it was a lot of pressure.
Going back to what we said earlier, how, I've seen you come up in the ranks, because back then when my coaches were fighting, you were friends with my old friend Harris Fazlik.
Harris, yes, the wrestler.
Yeah. And then I think you were like a 15, 16-year-old kid fighting in a circuit with headgear and shin pads. From you back then coming to main eventing a fight like this, did it add much more pressure to your fight?
Oh, 100%. Because I'm sitting there and if you're up, because when you start, you're first out. So you're kind of scared because you don't want to be first. But then now you're at the end and you get there and the back room's full and, there's all this chatter and you kind of get lost in it all.
Yeah.
But when you main event, everyone starts going out and fighting. And this, room full of 30 people has become just you and your trainers, full of maybe 4 people. So that kind of is that eerie quiet. So you have that more kind of time to yourself and more time to formulate plans and scare yourself a little bit more. So being a main event as well, I was like, and the title was on the line.
Yep.
I was, actually quite nervous as well because I knew Indigo would bring a hard fight because he was just he was hungry and he wanted that title as well. And I watched his interview at TKO.
That was hilarious.
just before, but he was like, I'm going to knock Chris out. And I'm like, oh, so he's really going to swing some stuff. And especially since he's fought, because it goes both ways. He fought Alexia and he fought Nguyen, so he kind of knows what our stable's about. And he knew in the interview, he actually knew, he's like, Chris is probably going to clinch. So I thought in my mind that he'd prepare. So, so when I fought him,
It was a good one, though.
It was a lot more pressure.
And was that the spinning heel kick that landed? Because you said one of them landed, didn't it?
No, that's not the one that landed. He landed in the middle of the ring in maybe round 4. That's the one. I think this was in the same round. I think it was just more when I was backing away, though.
Yeah.
Because he'd thrown like 2 or 3 before and I could see him coming. But with the one he got me with, he feinted with the right. He feinted with the right hand and then he spun straight away. And I saw it coming the last second and he just got me. And I was like, it kind of gave me that kind of flash in my eyes. I'm like, oh, wake me up.
Now it'll bring us to our last photo now.
Oh no.
What is that, Chris? What vegetable is that?
Some kind of vegetable. Oh, Will, I hate you.
When I was doing my research on you, I was thinking, man, where did this name come from? Where did I know this name from? And I realized there was a particular moment where I first heard this name. It was at one of my own weigh-ins at an MMA fight. I went to your old gym out in Airport West. And then there was that little kid on the side. I kept hearing the name Super Bok Choy being called out. And then someone said, oh, that's our boy there, the Super Bok Choy.
Oh, God. Fuck. Oh, you got to send me this photo. That's awesome.
I'll send it to you. Who gave you that name and why haven't you stuck with it?
Honestly, I had so many nicknames, which I'm not going to mention because I'll never live it down. Back when I was a kid, even now, I'm not. I think it came from Boy because when Boy first came over, he was Super Boy.
Yeah. And
Boy at the time was training me during my amateurs and kind of building me as a fighter. So I think they kind of just took that name Super Boy and then just made it Super. And then they're like, oh, what else can we call Chris?
Bok Choy.
Bok Choy. So I have no idea why they call me Bok Choy. I have it framed. I have it in a photo frame. Like it's got all my amateur photos in it, and it's got Super Bok Choy at the bottom. So I have no idea where Bok Choy came from. I'm pretty sure Boy or Dom would have gave me that name.
Yeah,
it would make sense.
That answered a lot.
Look at you though.
Me, young Will and young Chris, back in the day.
I aged a bit, man.
Wow, it's the Asian genetics.
Yeah, no, it's really good, huh? What did you fight that? Did you fight this one?
Yeah, this was back in the day when you were still fighting in the country, and I didn't want to drive out to the country, so I think you were fighting at another show that weekend, and we just weighed in at your gym, and then we fought the
I
next
think it would have been in Lilydale, maybe.
I don't know. This was out in Echuca on one of Matt Reed's shows. Yeah, on one of Matt Reed's shows.
What show was that? What show was that called?
KO9. It was the old KO shows. He used to do a lot of Muay Thai shows and MMA shows out in country Victoria, but that was a long time ago, man.
Oh, well, man, me and you've been around the block.
These days, it's so easy. Your first fight, you can just go up to the main stage, no shin pads, and start banging it out and get a YouTube highlight video. Back then, you'd be lucky if someone was filming it.
Back then, you had to hustle. Like, you had to try to get as many fights as you could and as often as you could.
Yeah.
And like, I remember my first fight, I was like, oh, do I get walkout music? I had like headgear on, 16-ounce gloves, like padded up. And I was like, oh, do I get walkout music? And they're like, no. You're doing a gym spar. Relax. And I was like, oh, okay.
Well, thanks, man. Thank you for the chat. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, Will. I hope to see you at the next show.